Welcome to Direct Approach, a bi-weekly podcast hosted by Wayne Moorhead, filled with timely insights, fresh perspectives, and actionable takeaways from your direct selling executive peers to help fuel the growth and evolution of your business. Curious about how to embrace AI without losing the human touch? In this episode, David Schmidt reveals how Lifewave is using AI and robotics to innovate responsibly, enhance job satisfaction, and drive growth. Learn how to navigate the fast-changing business landscape with confidence and purpose. From cutting-edge product innovation to revolutionizing the way businesses scale, David's 2-decade journey offers unparalleled insight into what it takes to succeed in a constantly evolving marketplace. But before we begin, we'd like to thank this episode's sponsor, Exego. Today, running a direct selling company can feel overwhelming, like juggling 1,000 things at once. What if there was a tool that could scale to handle the heavy lifting and help reduce operational costs at the same time? Exego is that tool. The Exego platform is a suite of software that automates and speeds up commissions, streamlines operations, improves reporting, and offers the flexibility companies crave. With Exego, clunky, rigid, in-house software becomes a modern and efficient platform, allowing businesses to focus on what matters most: growth and making world-changing products. Join the hundreds of other MLM companies who trust Exego to improve their tech stack and boost their bottom line. Visit exego.com to learn more. Now let's welcome your host, Wayne Moorhead, and his guest, David Schmidt.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of DSN's Direct Approach podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Moorhead, and today's guest is a prolific innovator, inventor, entrepreneur, and owner. He holds over 130 patents, predominantly in the area of regenerative science and technology. He and his company have received numerous awards, and it's also one of the fastest growing companies, both inside and outside of the direct selling channel. And to top it off, they're celebrating their 20th anniversary this year. I'm honored to welcome Lifewave's founder and CEO, David Schmidt. David, thank you so much for being on Direct Approach today.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And congratulations again on an incredible 20 years. It's truly an inspiring story. And as I mentioned right before we started recording, we've received a lot of interest, a lot of requests for an interview with you to hear more about the incredible things happening here at Lifewave. So we're all very excited to hear directly from you what you've accomplished and what you see coming down the road, this next 20-year chapter for Lifewave.
Oh, it's been an amazing journey, absolutely amazing. The channel has been just so good for me personally and, of course, for Lifewave. And we're really looking forward to blazing some new trails over the next 10 to 20 years. And we certainly have a plan to grow the business. And absolutely, I'm very excited about the direct selling channel. This is where we want to be, and we see a huge future ahead.
Absolutely. You've been an incredible champion for the channel, for direct selling, and really continue to add so much energy and excitement for brand partners, for customers, and for all of us here at corporate. So thank you for all you do.
Oh, absolutely. Our 20th anniversary event was the best event that we've ever had. And, the fact that we were celebrating 20 years absolutely helped. But I think this is important for the industry in the sense that what we're doing is using innovation in a number of different ways, not just in product development, but how we think about events, how we think about the channel, how are we going to attract new brand partners and customers from outside the channel. And the 20-year anniversary event that we just had in October was an opportunity to test the waters in a few of those areas. And I'm delighted to say that every single one of those things that we tried is paying off. So certainly other companies in our industry can learn from that.
Oh, absolutely. The event itself, I was fortunate enough to be there, was really one of the most incredible events in all of direct selling that I've been to. Record attendance, again, pulling in more than any conference I've seen in the last several years, and the inspiration, the excitement that everybody felt coming off that is truly incredible. And I'm glad that you mentioned innovation, because I know that is really kind of at the forefront of how you build and lead and develop products and companies and new technologies. And we're excited to really dig in more and hear about that process from you. Before we go too far into the future, I'd love to take a little bit of a step back and hear the path that led you into direct selling and why you chose this business model to bring your innovative products to market.
Well, this is going to sound unusual, but I never wanted to be in direct selling. It was the furthest, it was the furthest from my mind. And I had been developing technologies for the U.S. Navy. I'd been an entrepreneur my whole life, so I had a computer business that was doing fine. I was kind of making a living at it, and then I had an opportunity to start to work on some of my inventions with a small group of guys. We started a company in Georgia, and because of our contacts, we were able to start pitching a number of very, very big defense contractors like General Dynamics, Raytheon, Newport News, GE, on these new technologies that myself and others at the company were developing. And we got very far along with that. So I had thought I was going to be just an inventor my whole life. And 9/11 really changed all of that. Because when 9/11 hit, understandably, the government was interested in developing weapons, and I was working on things to save people's lives, emergency systems. So I had spent several years coming up with this concept of the Lifewave patch and decided to set up a company and then take that out to market. And of course, early on in the process, I had to think about doing clinical studies, setting up manufacturing, and then, of course, how are people going to find out about this product, and what channel are we going to use to sell it? So initially, I thought about infomercials, going to retail. I had meetings with GNC, and I had met a series of people along the way, and it was a perfect example of the power of direct sales and network marketing. And as we began to do demonstrations of the technology with people, it became very obvious that face-to-face selling was going to be much more powerful than simply having the product sit on a shelf. So the real moment came in the 2004 Olympic trials. I had been working with Coach Richard Quick at Stanford University, and we had his Stanford women's swim team using the patches in Olympic trials. And we made national news. And there were maybe 1,000 people or so that had come forward and said, wow, I'd really like to distribute your product. And it was that time that I decided to go full in on setting up Lifewave as a network marketing company. And I thought, if you could take on networking in a way that maybe was done differently than had it been done before, that it could be really something very special. So that's really what got us started. I just had no idea what I was getting into at that point, but it's been amazing.
It has been an amazing journey, as we've all watched from the sidelines over the last couple of decades. And it is, unprecedented. A lot of the companies that you had worked with prior to coming into direct selling, so impressive, was such an amazing track record of success and innovation. And it is interesting as I talk to other founders and entrepreneurs, especially with products that are so innovative, so differentiated, that have such a strong foundation in the sciences and in technology, that they do see direct selling, that personal kind of one-to-one ability to explain, to demonstrate, to really go deep on the product and its value. How many people see direct selling as the best way to go to market and get that great information out? And so I know all of us are glad that you selected direct selling as the channel for these products. Entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. I think anyone that's tried it fully understands that. I'm curious, those early days, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced to, even keep the company alive and to scale it? And then how did you overcome those to be where you are today?
there were huge challenges at multiple stages in the company. And several times, more than once, I nearly went out of business. And in the very early days in getting started, in getting the company set up in 2002, I had a small amount of money, but was way undercapitalized. But I never really thought about that. I just thought about how can I minimize expenses? How can I, each day, I need to be calling people, scheduling meetings, sending emails, working on the problems of getting clinical studies done and setting up manufacturing. So essentially I came up with a game plan of everything that I needed to do over the course of, let's say, a year, and then break that down into weekly activities. It's not very much different than what a brand partner would do in building their business. So I think part of it is having a lot of patience and having a lot of persistence and committing yourself to a daily regimen of work and setting those goals and objectives and having a daily plan to get those things done. But inevitably you're going to run into challenges along the way, and it's an amazing opportunity, I think, to first deepen your relationship with God, have a life of prayer and seeking guidance, and also really finding out who you are as an individual. Are you really committed to what it is that you're trying to do? And ultimately, if you're not in love with what it is that you're trying to do, you should probably get out and do something else. Because in the beginning, there was 12, 14, 16-hour work days. And unless I really believed in what I was trying to do, I never would have made it. So about 6 months in, I think I was around $50,000 in debt, and living off of credit cards, and I had a wife and kids to support. And it was just at that time I had someone come in and put in a pretty fair amount of investment capital. And I was lucky enough later on to make some money and then buy that person out. And there were a few kind of stages like that. And then in 2006, we faced a massive credit card fraud. And in a matter of a single month, we lost about 50% of our brand partners. And that was all in October of 2006. So going into Christmas, we didn't have any money to make payroll. So I had to virtually empty my bank account to make payroll, cover company bills. And I thought, well, I'm not sure if the company is going to make it into January, but I want everybody to have an okay Christmas, and I'll worry about it in January. Each month in 2007, we were able to barely cover our expenses. It was kind of like, which vendor, are we going to pay this month? And I was we had our office in La Jolla, California, and every Sunday I would go for a walk on the beach for about 3 or 4 hours, and I would just look for guidance. I would pray, look for guidance. And I remember we got to March, and I was thinking, Lord, I know this is what you want me to do with my life, but I don't know how to make it. Can you please, give me a sign? And it wasn't too much after that, maybe a month or so after that, that I got home on a Friday night, and there was a letter in the mail from the IRS. And I thought, I don't know, I'm barely hanging on. I don't know how much more of this I can take. And we had overpaid on our taxes the year before, and it was a refund check for $163,000. And that money allowed us to make it through the end of the year. And then in 2008, we had a brand partner sign up in Europe who just did an amazing job. So sales in 2008 were double of 2007. 2009 was double of 2008, and 2010 was double of 2009. So we were able to make it through that really difficult time and come back and be stronger than ever.
I think another one of the things that is really remarkable about the company is the culture in the field. And I know, every company in direct selling talks about it. They understand the importance of it. But a lot of times it just kind of happens organically. And there were so many brand partners, and still to this day, that have been with you from the beginning. But also with all of the growth, there's been a corresponding increase in brand new or relatively new brand partner leaders. Yet there seems to be such a close community and camaraderie that is not often seen in direct selling companies within the sales force. What do you attribute this to, where the field does work so closely together, and how have you helped to foster that?
Yeah, I would say what's really important is that the brand partners buy into the vision and the mission of the company. And that has to be something other than we're doing this to make money. There's anything that people can do to make money. You can be a lawyer, a doctor, electrician, plumber, whatever. There's many, many ways to earn a living. So if that's what the proposition is, I don't think you're going to build any type of culture or any type of loyalty. But if you're building a community where there's a common vision and mission, then you have something else entirely. So this really started in different phases within Lifewave. So when we started in 2004, it was really about, let's help people have a better quality of life. And each day and each week in the company, we would get these phenomenal testimonials, and we made sure that we wanted to share these with our community. So very much over time, while the mission changed, it was always heavily product focused and focused on this idea that Lifewave offers hope, and we can be a part of making the world a better place to live in. And as a natural extension to that, we donate money to organizations like the Red Cross, Convoy of Hope, that are out there to provide relief efforts for people that need it. So I think it would be fair to say that we have an amazing community of brand partners that are totally in line with this mission. And when you hear them talk about our business, that's always at the forefront, is that these products are providing real solutions to people all over the planet.
Absolutely. The ability to create that alignment obviously starts with defining what those values are, what the mission, what the purpose is. And I know that's something that you've done and did early on, and have really stuck to it. Where again, so many times in companies it can happen organically, but you were really clear on that vision from the beginning. And I know all of the field leaders and the brand partners have really been able to just kind of, rally around those ideals. And, it's not just, a product feature or benefit focus, but something, that ladders up as high as hope. I mean, that's beautiful. That's, so high up the benefits ladder that it's something that we all want and need. And then everything else in the organization just kind of ladders up to that and builds and supports that. And I've seen that worked really effectively here. In addition to having the right product, creating this culture, having great leaders, along the way, and then come into the company, what are some of the other things that have really helped the company to grow and also keep up with that growth? Because that kind of growth, while it's a wonderful thing, can bury a lot of companies, but yet never been out of stock. Product's always been there. So what are a few of those additional things that have helped you grow and scale and support that growth?
Yeah, so there's a few things that you do on a practical level to stay ahead of the growth. And then there's other things where you look to the future and you say, what can I do that's really innovative, that's really different? What are some of the things that maybe the landscape of the competition is not thinking about that we could do? How can we, for example, pull people into our channel that are outside the channel? What are some novel ways of doing that? So maybe we can take that one step at a time. The first thing on the day-to-day things, you obviously have to look at your infrastructure and your supply chain, and how can you make yourself as bulletproof as possible with changing geopolitical circumstances. So one of the things that we've done is invested heavily into engineering, and to be looking at our manufacturing process and thinking ahead and saying, how can we incorporate robotics into our manufacturing? How can we incorporate these computerized visual detection systems into what we're doing? So in one example, just a few years ago, when we needed to order a new piece of equipment to expand manufacturing, that was an opportunity to say, okay, let's make this thing fully automated with state-of-the-art robotics and some other features. And we ended up with a system that was 3 times faster than the machine that it was replacing. But not only that, the original equipment required 18 people to operate it, and the new equipment only requires 2 people. So we can currently manufacture enough product in-house to support a business doing about $2 billion a year. So we're way ahead of the curve. And this year, we'll be ordering another piece of equipment and expanding out to a 70,000 square foot manufacturing facility. And that will take us up to about the $3 billion mark or so. So being able to look at growth curves and stay ahead with your manufacturing is absolutely critical. And so we don't have stockouts. We always have 3-4 months of inventory. So that's something that our brand partners have definitely come to appreciate, that they don't have stockout issues. So that's just something that is part of normal weekly management review, is looking at customer service, looking at order fulfillment, looking at manufacturing, and then looking at some key indicators and saying, okay, it's time to make an investment in this area. So, we're way ahead of the curve. So those things are kind of self-evident, but they've worked very, very well for us. Looking past that, there's definitely some projects that we've taken on that have been very high risk. However, I'm delighted that they've paid off so well. One of them is our Welcome Center. So I started with this idea that I could build this thing for $1 million, and that was going to be the budget. And myself and Jim Caldwell, who's our VP of Special Projects, he and I kind of threw this around, and he said, I don't think we're going to build this for $1 million. I was like, well, I can build a house for $1 million. So, but we started to recruit some talent, and it became very obvious that, this was going to be extremely expensive. But we went ahead and after maybe 18 months, this thing finally took shape and now is in our office in Draper. And we got to do the unveiling in the middle of September. And the reaction, I can honestly say this was one of the top 5 events I was ever at for Lifewave in 20 years, because the reaction from the brand partners was priceless. They had this blend of being excited, almost like in disbelief. They felt like they were inside of a spaceship learning about Lifewave and the company. And so we took this idea of the Welcome Center and said, we want people to come in and have it be completely immersive. So we included holograms, we included workstations that look like they're straight out of Star Trek. And we wanted to show people, this is where we've been, this is where we are today, and this is where we're going in the future. So anyone coming in from around the world, they will get a presentation in the Welcome Center in their language. We have every language that we support. And they can find out about Lifewave in a really entertaining way. So we've put through, 100 people now through the Welcome Center, well, more than that, including staff. And every single person that has gone through, they just describe it as jaw-dropping, and they're ecstatic about it. So we're going to be able to use this Welcome Center as a tool for building our business in a really interesting way in the coming years.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been fortunate to go through it a few times, and it's almost hard to describe. I mean, even as I heard you describe it right now, to understand the scale, the sophistication, and the technology that's involved, just talking about it really doesn't do it justice. And it's unlike any other welcome center, where often welcome centers can feel like a museum. And it's just looking backwards, and here's some glass boxes with some of our products. As you mentioned, this truly is an immersive experience, and I love that you've taken it to future looking as well. And this isn't wishful future thinking. It's things that you've been working on, things that are developing, things that are on the roadmap. And to be able to see where the company has been, is at today, and the incredible things that people have the potential to be a part of, is unlike any experience. And so whether you're one of the top field leaders or somebody brand new coming in, you walk away from this incredible brand touch point and brand experience with belief and knowledge in the company that truly is empowering to anybody that walks through it. It's incredible.
Yeah, thank you. It was a huge risk. And I remember on opening day, on the one hand, I was excited. And on the other hand, I was saying, well, what if they walk through and like, yeah, I don't get it. You never know how people are going to respond. But fortunately, the response from the leaders was, how soon can we start getting people in here? Because they were ecstatic about it and couldn't wait to start showing it off. And as you say, the future visioning is all the technology in the future section of the Welcome Center already exists. Now it's a matter for us to get it on a timeline for taking it out to market. So as you say, it's not really wishful thinking. It's that, no, this is the future, and it's coming to Lifewave in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, being able to paint that picture and let them experience it in such a tangible way completely changes the excitement and the motivation around it, knowing that this is just on the horizon. Some things for later this year, some things in the next few years to come. But it's truly incredible, and it shows how diverse you and the company are thinking about innovation. It's not just about today's product or today's category even, but these categories that may only very few companies would have permission in the minds of consumers to extend into, but with the extensive research allows you to go to these incredible, exciting categories and places. And I'm excited for all of the listeners to hear, over time. And I know you're going to share a couple of the announcements here in a few minutes, but that is such a tangible touch point that communicates the innovation that's at the heart of the company. I know that's been a part of your leadership approach, your R&D approach from the beginning. And I've also seen it cascade and be instilled throughout the organization. How have you helped to take, your ideas, your approach, and make sure that it becomes a part of our everyday approach here at the company?
So it definitely is sharing the short-term and the long-term vision of the business with all of the key players in the company, and ultimately everyone in the company, about where do you want to take the business and why. And the why really has to come first. So, and the why has changed over time as well. So in a recent discussion that I had with the brand partners, what I said to them is, we have an opportunity now to make Lifewave a generational company. So many of the brand partners financially have done great, the elite leaders that we have. And so the proposition is, well, maybe we should start to think about our kids and their kids. And we should think about where do we want to be in 20 years? Many of our brand partners might like to think about retiring and passing the business off over to their kids. But if the company doesn't have a plan to sustain its growth over the next 10, 20 years, then it's kind of pointless. So the vision is to be thinking about that kind of timeline and looking ahead, and what kind of of systems can we put in place today to guarantee that we're here 20 years from now? So that's very much become part of our why. We have to be providing something valuable to the planet in order to survive. And of course, that goes hand in hand. But I'm very much thinking about Lifewave now as being a generational company. And so that changes the way that you think about things. So in that regard, when you're looking at it from that perspective, it's like, well, why are we getting involved with drones? Well, it's very simple. Drones by the year 2030 are going to be a $200 billion a year business. And we have a drone technology that even companies like Lockheed and Raytheon and General Atomics don't have. And we'll be able to create a business from that. And that's kind of beyond our discussion today. But we unveiled that 2 years ago and painted that vision and got people very excited about it. And it was also another marker to say, hey, company is really different. We're very, very innovative in doing different things. Another thing that we're doing is we're taking the power generation system that we developed here for the drone, and we're turning that into a method of generating clean energy to power people's homes and charge their electric vehicles. So this is going to be another opportunity for the Lifewave family where we're doing something great for the planet and we're making people independent and they can earn money in the process. And of course, power generation is going to be something that's going to be around as long as human beings are around. So it's a great business model for us. So those are, of course, some of the things that we're doing to stay innovative and to look at what technologies are going to be relevant decades from now, and how can Lifewave be a part of that and sustain this phenomenal business opportunity.
Join us for our first ever DSU LATAM event, January 8th and 9th. Plus, save the date for our Spring DSU event and Global Celebration happening March 25th through the 27th at the Irving Convention Center in Irving, Texas. Registration is free. Visit dsnevents.com today.
Another thing I want to mention, I think that probably everybody listening now has been able to experience and understand. There's a lot of heavy science. There's a lot of innovation happening there that you're leading at Lifewave. And I think one of the many superpowers you have is the ability to take these complex scientific and technological concepts and distill them down and make them very approachable and understandable, and without losing the audience, which a lot of times we've all sat through science presentations, at least for me, coming from a marketing background and not a science or math background, concepts can kind of go over my head, but you present it in such a way that it's easy to understand. It's easy to connect. It's easy to be inspired by. And I'm curious, in your leadership style and approach, how you've been able to balance that approach with such deep science and such deep technology around the products, but also the motivation, the inspiration to a huge sales force. How have you been able to kind of balance and have both of those dynamics work so well together?
Well, I really love sales and marketing. At my core, I want to be an inventor. But when I was in college and after I graduated, I had to survive by taking sales jobs, and then I was building my own businesses. So that involved learning sales and marketing and trying to be good at it. And so I've always had to have a balance and a blend between the two. So when I go at product development, it's always with the thought of, well, what am I really trying to do here? What type of benefit are people going to get out of this technology? So I kind of start with the marketing side and be thinking about ultimately, why are people going to buy this? And then on the development side, you think about how do you structure the clinical studies so that you can ultimately support those claims. But it really will come down to an overarching goal. So the overarching goal is, how can we stop and hopefully even reverse human aging? That's the goal. So that would be something that would be highly saleable and highly marketable to people. So now the question is, okay, how are we going to get there? And in our case, we spent many, many years investigating species that don't age. So this is, in science, we call this biomimicry or biomimetics. And it's the idea that we can look at tardigrades, planaria, hydractinia. We can look at these species and say, okay, we know these species aren't aging. The question is, can we learn something from them so we can apply it to human beings? And in this particular case, very fortunate is that we were studying lobsters when I discovered a biological code in lobsters that was responsible for their longevity. And fortunately, we were able to create technology to duplicate that. And now what we found through our clinical studies is that this does, in fact, have an extraordinary effect on human beings. So all these things kind of have to, line up together, but ultimately you really have to establish what is it that you're trying to achieve. And, stopping human aging, I think most people would probably dismiss that and said, yeah, of course that would be great, but, you're never going to get there. But in fact, in this particular case, I think we will.
No, that's really exciting. Again, it's always impressive to see how always whenever the science or health benefits are presented, the business benefits to the brand partners in the field are always presented as well. So, it's not just product benefits for health's sake, but more of that holistic approach to both sides of the house with the product and the business opportunity side, I think is always amazing. Now, I know a big part of your innovation strategy centers around AI and that you're literally getting it into every aspect of the business and leveraging it in some really interesting ways. One of the impressive things is you always speak about it in very human-centric terms. Obviously, this is going to be very disruptive to a lot of people, a lot of industries, a lot of jobs. But you have always described it as kind of a tool to help humans, to help us be more effective. But it even goes into your hiring strategy. Do you mind sharing a little bit how you're approaching the disruptive nature of AI with this human-centric approach?
I would credit Gene Roddenberry and Star Trek for this. Okay. There's an old, as you know, we were blessed to have William Shatner speak at our 20th anniversary event, along with Doug Drexler, who's won 2 Academy Awards for Star Trek design. He's worked on Star Trek for 40 years. In the original Star Trek series, there was an episode called The Ultimate Computer. And they had taken this advanced, they didn't call it AI at the time, but that's effectively what it was. They had taken this very advanced AI computer, they connected it to the Enterprise, and it was essentially replacing the captain and a number of other people on the ship and making all these decisions. And they found out that it was extremely efficient. And there's a scene where Captain Kirk says, well, what do you think about this, Spock? I'm paraphrasing, this might be practical. And Spock says something along the lines of, it's practical but undesirable. Computers make excellent servants, but I have no wish to serve underneath one. And I think that's a good lesson, is that if we go so far down the AI trail, we all may end up working underneath them. And I don't think that is ever going to be a good thing. So computers make excellent tools, but nonetheless, they are tools, and they should be used that way with people in control. So when we think about how do we want to use AI in customer service, I would say that would be a good example. We're implementing AI, and what we will do to improve job satisfaction is, instead of firing highly trained customer service people, we're going to move them over into an outbound customer service. So now they can be developing relationships with the brand partners and improving brand partners' experience with the company. So they'll be in an outreach program. When we look at order fulfillment, we look at integrating AI and robotics. And so this will be so we can have 24/7 order fulfillment. It's not going to be to replace existing staff. They'll be in a supervisory role. And as a matter of fact, we'll give our order fulfillment staff an opportunity to learn about robotics, how to service these machines, and how to work with them. But I don't want to run a company where we're replacing human beings with machines or AI. It's a mistake, and that's not something I want to do.
Oh, I think that's such a beautiful approach. And I know with the rapid continued evolution and advancement of AI, as well as adoption, I know a lot of companies feel like they're behind. They don't know exactly where they should be and what they should be doing. Where do you feel that companies should be at today? What should they be focused on today? And then as you look out a few years, where should the focus, or the evolution be at that point?
So AI is progressing so rapidly that generally anyone that tells you they know what's going to happen with AI in 3 or 5 years is they don't know what they're talking about, or they're kidding themselves, because it's just progressed too quickly. So I would say it would be important to have someone on staff that's just looking at and focusing on AI and all of the different apps. And it's one of these things where it's important to just get started. So there's already, of course, some great tools, which are text to image converters, and some of those things can be used. We have an individual who was creating graphics for Hollywood movies that we've been working with on a consulting basis. And one of the projects that we have for him in 2025 is to be looking at programs like OpenAI Sora, and how can we use some of these text to video programs for integrating into the video work that we're doing. We have a robotics initiative that we're doing with our IT department to be looking at, okay, over the next year, there's new robotics that are coming out. How could we potentially integrate that into what it is that we're doing? So I think first it's important to have someone on staff that is leading the way on AI. And then every single department needs to be evaluated, and department heads need to take ownership on this and say, okay, we are going to use some of these new AI tools, but let's say, make sure that we're doing things in a sensible fashion. So for companies, I think, that feel that they're behind, I wouldn't worry about that so much, as long as you kind of get started and start to become familiar with the tools that do exist, and knowing that a year from now, those tools could be obsolete and you're already looking at new ones.
Yeah, with the innovation, kind of that culture of innovation you've created, it's been really impressive to see how the AI plan and strategy is part of each department's strategy here internally. Everybody has it as part of their plan, current as well as future state. And I found that very interesting, that it's just already top of mind across literally every department at the company. It's really impressive as part of the culture you've created here. So I'd love to get your thoughts a little bit on kind of international expansion. You've been able to expand into a lot of markets. That's been, part of, or at least one of the variables and factors in the growth. Can you talk about, as you have approached international expansion, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and what are some of the key lessons learned?
We had an enormous amount of pressure years ago to open in China. And I just kept seeing all these landmines. And I thought, I don't want to rush in. This looks like a real problem to me. There are all these red flags that were coming up. And fortunately, we didn't get involved in China. And a lot of other companies had massive problems. And in fact, when we've spoken with brand partners today, they'll ask, are you going into China? And my response is no. Doesn't make sense. And they're like, oh, I'm glad to hear that, because other companies are getting killed there. So I would say in that case, brand partners are not pushing China the way that they used to. On the positive side, I'll use Taiwan as an example. We opened Taiwan in 2008. And for many years, we would do just over $1 million a year. We weren't really making any money, and we were losing money. But I was looking at the long-term potential, and I thought, okay, if we're going to stay in there. I don't think we're going to get a second shot at this. I don't want to leave and then try to come back in later. So it's far better to keep the investment, even if you're losing money year over year, and showing people that you're serious about supporting the market. And what happened was incredible. That strategy definitely was noticed by a number of the leaders in Taiwan. And when X39 came out, the leaders unified and they said, well, Lifewave's been supporting us all of this time. Now it's time for us to work together. We've got this one opportunity. Let's build the business. And now Taiwan is Lifewave is in the top 30 largest network marketing companies in Taiwan. But it was because we stayed committed to the market. So I would say being able to avoid some of the landmines in international would be really important. You'd save time and money. And then once you decide to go into a market, be committed to the market, even if it doesn't go in the direction that you hope, because you may not get another shot at it. And I think that brand partners are looking for those red flags. Is this company really committed into our market or not? And you want to be there to say, yeah, we've been here for years. We're not going anywhere.
Yeah, that is such a thoughtful approach that has served the company really well. And I know the trust, when you make that long-term commitment to a market, when you see the potential, you're in there for strategic reasons, not just because you got pulled in maybe by a leader, but you build such great trust that when kind of it's time for that market to really start growing, that you start seeing those benefits. That's a really important approach. So I'd love to kind of get your thoughts on a little bit looking back and a little bit looking forward with just a few more questions. So looking back across the amazing 20 years, if you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice when you founded Lifewave, what do you think that would be?
That it's important each and every day to have a life of prayer. That ultimately you want to rely on God's plan and find out, how can I do the most good in the world? And really turn that over to God. Because ultimately, if your company doesn't represent being a positive force for good in the world, then it may not be a worthwhile venture. You want to be able to stand on stage in front of your community and in all sincerity talk about all of the good that you're doing in the world. The world is a better place because of Lifewave. The world's a better place because of what it is that we're doing. And in their hearts, they know it's true because there's evidence of that. So I would say that really has to be the focus, is where does this company fit in the world, and how can we do the most good? And, they say only God is good. So it's important to, turn to God in prayer and then look for that guidance. So, and then I think the other thing I would say to my younger self is it's going to be a long, hard journey, but everything is going to be okay. Everything, you'll go through a lot of ups and downs. You'll be put through the fire. Keep doing what you're doing. This is what you're meant to do with your life. And, you're going to become a better person through the process, despite some of the difficulties. So, but that said, I wouldn't change a thing, because otherwise I might not be where I am today. So, but yeah, I think those would be some important lessons.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes it's the challenging times, I think, that we learn the most, and that helps build us and turn us into the people that we need to be to accomplish the task at hand. Kind of along those same lines, as it relates to leadership, building an organization, leading an organization, hiring, within that, what do you feel from a kind of a purely leadership standpoint is one of the great lessons that you've learned over the last 20 years?
You really have to love and care for the people that you work with, as well as the brand partners, and think about their situation and where is it that they're trying to get to, and how can you help them get there. So as a leader in the company, I think about how can I provide a stable business, one that's safe, that people can call their home, that they feel good about putting their time and hard work and energy into, and have this be a really rewarding experience, and have people know that what they're doing is making a difference. So with our leaders and our brand partners, when they're applying our products to people and they see these transformations that occur, they know that they've done something great in the world, and they're going to build a business and earn money, as a consequence of that. Not the opposite, not that they're earning money and they're trying to sell people products. No, it's about, we want to make a difference in the world. We want to offer hope. We want to offer healing. And as a consequence of those actions, we're going to be able to build a business as a result. So I think culturally, that's really important for leaders, that we be thinking about how can we help and support the people around us. And then I think everything else takes care of itself.
Well, I can personally attest to the impact that approach has, on the individual level, me as being a member of the Lifewave team, as well as it has on the entire organization. And kind of drafting off that a little bit, looking at the broader channel outside of the company, you've been an incredible champion for the business model, for direct selling itself. As you look out over the next 3 to 5 years, again, the landscape is changing so rapidly, for all of us in direct selling. What excites you most about the future of direct selling?
It's going to be absolutely huge. And I'll tell you why, is that other companies are not going to adopt the same philosophy about robotics and AI that we are. And it's already happened with companies like IBM. One of my friends worked for IBM for 40 years, and they laid him off. They laid off 6,000 people when they integrated a new AI system. And these public companies are going to be thinking about using AI to cut costs, improve the bottom line, improve profitability, and improve stock value. And again, this is, I get it, but I think it's a very short-sighted vision. So what this means is that you're going to get hundreds of thousands, millions of people that are going to be looking for work, and they have to support their families and themselves. So they have to turn to the gig economy, and direct selling is going to be one of the options that they have for earning an income. So the question is, can we provide an opportunity where they can come in, earn money quickly, and support themselves and their family? So that's kind of the challenge. So I certainly believe that Lifewave is perfectly positioned to take advantage of this shift that's coming with AI and robotics. And now it's really up to, my message to the industry is, we've got to innovate. We have to produce products and services that are patented and that you can't find anyplace else. So in our case, we've got patented health and wellness technology. We have drone technology. We have power generation technology. And I'm intending to build Lifewave into a multi-billion-dollar organization so that 10, 20 years from now, we're still healthy, and we're growing, and we're doing really, really well. But it all stems from innovation, and then looking at what are the current trends, and then being prepared to take advantage of them.
That's wonderful. I think that's the perfect idea to end on today. I really do think the future of commerce generally is going to be social. It's going to be direct. And so I agree with you. We're perfectly positioned to take advantage of this, but we do have to do the right things to ensure relevancy, like making sure we're innovating, that we're patenting our products, that there are these exclusive, ownable, differentiated aspects to the channel as a whole. Dave, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to share your insights, your expertise, and thank you for giving all of us in direct selling an incredibly inspiring example of growth and innovation.
Absolutely.
So here's to the next 20 years, David.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for tuning in. Please take a moment to subscribe and give a 5-star rating and review to help Direct Approach continue to provide more candid insights and interviews for direct selling corporate executives. Don't forget to register for our first ever DSU LATAM event, January 8th and 9th. Plus, save the date for our Spring DSU and Global Celebration, March 25th through the 27th. Visit dsnevents.com for more details. Thank you for listening and supporting DSN and the Direct Approach podcast.